talk about the application?
I think we should do it first or after we talk about it.
We'll do it after.
Okay.
Good morning. How is everyone? Sorry, we had a little complications this morning, but now we should be live and everyone should be hearing us. If you haven't already, I can see in the chat where y'all have put down what dealership you're at, but if you want to, put a little bit more. My name is John Stevens, and most people call me Big John, and I have with me today
Logan.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that we've heard floating around a little bit. We've talked about it. It's going to be finance with backyard. So this is something that is still fairly new in the works. We have been working at it been working at it for a couple months here. But I would like to say Logan is going to be our finance point man. Logan, if you want to take it from there and talk about finance with backyard a little bit, we'll go from there.
Yep. So I know a lot of you have had the opportunity to work with backyard. Some of you are still waiting on that opportunity too. But in doing so, we're hoping that by us offering another form of payment, another form of purchase, that kind of opens that market to more customers coming into your lot. The reason we do this is that sole reason right there. We want you to have every access or every ability that you can to sell buildings and to please your customers. So we're hoping doing this with Backyard is going to be a great opportunity for us. To this point, we've had great success with it. Backyard is a great vendor to work with.
So what we're saying basically here is this is going to be rolled out to everyone who is going to want this. We're going to go into some steps about it, what we've seen some positive, what we've seen some negative, and just kind of the same to watch out for. But after this panel, if you want that link, please let us know and email us at the dealer support email. So it'll be dealer support at Stor-Mor, and we can forward you over that link to start that process. And then I think we just go ahead and jump in it from there. Logan, what link am I talking about?
So we've got a link, and it's to Backyard. We've got a video that we'll show you here shortly that is going to show exactly what that link looks like, but it's going to be your customer's application process. So it's a very short process. It's a 3-step process. It mainly goes over just customer information, building location. They're not going to do a full credit pull. It's a soft credit pull, so that is one good thing about it. If a customer is not approved, it's not going to deter or mess up their credit. So we wanted to work with a vendor that gave us the ability to do that. And that way, hey, say financing doesn't work, we've still got rent to own. We've got cash purchases. If they want to do 90 days same as cash with rent to own, they can also do that.
Soft credit pull is going to be probably one of your biggest selling points for that. As Logan said, it doesn't pull anything from their credit to see if they get approved, and it is going to let them know what options they have. So that's something that's really going to be able to work in your conversation. Kind of what I'm thinking is we've talked about some different kind of processes of it. That's the big thing. What do we do? How do we do it? How do we sell it to our customer? We've come up with a workflow that's kind of worked, and we've seen it worked already with some. You want to try to talk about that workflow? What our dealers should see in the process of being able to offer this finance?
Yes. So the workflow with financing, your first step is going to be getting that customer to fill out that customer application. Once they do that, it's about, like I said, it's a 3-step process. I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get through that. It's a very short process.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some that's went a little bit longer. The Backyard is going to be East Coast time, so if anybody's in Central Mountain, Central, it's going to be an hour. Mountain, it'll be 2. So depending on what time that is, we have seen some little longer ones.
Yep. So that's going to be your step 1 of this process. Step 2 is going to be essentially your approval review. So within about 5 to 15 minutes of that application being submitted, Backyard's going to reach out to that customer. They're going to let them know their approval status, approved loan amounts, interest rate, available term links, all of that good stuff to do with that loan. Step 3 is going to be customer acceptance. So if the customer does accept this traditional financing offer, there is going to be an origination fee. That origination fee is going to fall between 3 and 6% of the loan amount. The customer enters their payment information in a provided Dropbox link. So in that link, it's going to have all their information for them to sign. They're going to pay that origination fee through that link as well. So when that link does pull up and that customer's got that information, if the customer is able to, it works great if they can go ahead and screenshot page 1. That's going to have all of that vital information to do with that loan. If they aren't able to do so, we can trace that back and we can find it. It just makes it a little bit smoother on your end if they are able to screenshot that. Once they do that, though, we're going to go jump into Shed Suite. Once we're into Shed Suite, we're going to go submit that order. For your purchase type, you've got cash, rent-to-own, financing. So you're going to click over to financing. Backyard, of course, is going to be your vendor. So you're going to enter in that order in Shed Suite as just a finance sale. There is going to be a $500 documentation fee. We're in the process of getting that added into Shed Suite. We'll give you some clear instructions on where to find that. But once we've done that, we do ask that you upload all of those required documents. So essentially that first page of that Dropbox file that has all their loan agreements or loan terms, if you'll submit that or attach that to the order in Shed Suite, that just helps to make processing go a little bit quicker to get those orders pushed through.
Now, perfect. Now, I know that's a lot of information coming at you pretty quick. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about each section and break it down bit by bit to explain the whole process and the idea behind that process. But what we first talked about was that application link. We wonder, I know y'all wonder, what's that look like for our customer? We do have a short couple-minute video here kind of walking through that application link so you can see it. We can't go all the way through it to the third part of it because it is pulling a credit on there, so nobody's divvied up their information to do it for training. So what we're going to do is show you how far we can before it starts pulling everything on a quick little video here.
Hey everybody, we're pleased to announce that we now offer a traditional financing option for your customers. So today I'm going to be walking you through the customer application. So this link here is going to be through Stor-Mor Portable Buildings with Backyard Financing. It's going to be a 3-step process, so it's pretty short, quick, and easy. After this is completed, about 5 to 7 minutes later, Backyard is going to reach out. Hey everybody, we're pleased to announce that we now offer a traditional financing option for your customers. So today I'm going to be walking you through the customer application. So this link here is going to be through Stor-Mor Portable Buildings with Backyard Financing. It's going to be a 3-step process, so it's pretty short, quick, and easy. After this is completed, about 5 to 7 minutes later, Backyard is going to reach out and let that customer know the terms, what they're allowed, all the good stuff there. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. They're not going to affect your customer's credit. They're just going to do a soft credit pull to see where your customer stands. So loan type is always going to be individual. Loan purpose is a shed. Stor-Mor Portable Buildings is already going to be filled in here for your contractor company name and then your amount to borrow. So Backyard will go up to $100,000 and they will go over a 20-year term length. So we're going to do $20,000 today. Once you get to the second step, this is going to be your borrower information. So it'll need a social security number, gross income, first, last name, employer, driver's license, all of those good things. If they've served in the U.S. military, driver license expiration date and birth date. Once you complete this, the next step is going to be address information. So it's going to let the customer know, it's going to let Backyard know where that building is going to be placed, where that property will be. Once this is submitted, 5 to 7 minutes later, Backyard's going to reach out. They're going to give that customer those terms, and then from there we can move forward into Shed Suite.
All right, perfect. That is going to be the application for finance. That's where you get your soft credit pull. Now, Logan, me and you've talked about this quite a bit. We'll go back up even farther. We'll go to customer. All of our dealers right now sell rent-to-own or cash. Finance is something that they may not be aware of or know how to sell or never even pitched nobody about their credit score. When you start talking about credit scores and stuff like that, customers do get a little weary. If you've never done it before, they know that it's not something that's common. What would be some good qualifying questions you ask to see if a customer is even ready to run through that link or not, or if we want to keep them with the rent-to-own?
So the first one to me is, do they own the land where the unit is going to be placed? That's going to be a big one for Backyard, is just verifying that that customer does own the property that the building is going to be placed on. So that's going to be a large one to me, just going ahead right out of the gate, verifying if they do own that property. When we talk about a soft credit pull even, of course there's hard and soft credit pulls, you still can get a little hesitation there. Customers can still hesitate a little bit to give you that information. One good thing about this is, yes, we offer traditional financing and rent-to-own. we don't want to look at one of those as better than the other or superior to the other, because we'll say maybe this customer doesn't get approved for traditional financing. We don't want to cut out rent to own in the process of trying to sell them financing. We want them to know that that is a great second option that is available to them.
It's not a second option. It's still not. No.
Well,
But
you know
it's
what I
easy.
said.
Yeah,
What I mean.
no, I'm messing with you. It's easy to get mixed up when you're saying that's something that you knew. But basically what we're doing is we're adding this to pull in that customer base who may not want to stroke a check for $10,000 or $12,000 or even $20,000 or even $3,000 for a building that day. And they do not like the down payment terms or something that's on rent to own, and they want another option. This is to pull that customer and not basically alienate rent to own to where that's not an option afterward. It's just another avenue to help get buildings closed and help get deals done that you traditionally wouldn't be able to get done in the past. Now, on that also, Logan, let's just back it up and talk about people who don't really understand the credit world if they've never done finance. We've been talking about soft credit and hard credit pull. Do you mind explaining what soft credit means and what hard pull means? Basically what it means for your customer, for our dealers to be able to tell them what it means if they're not aware.
Yep. So you always hear, and I'll use an example, you're car shopping. So you go to a car dealership and you talk to them, you found one you like, and they're going to try to find you somebody or a vendor out there that will give you that loan. Sure enough, a week or two passes by. Maybe you check your Credit Karma or whatever program you use to check your credit score, and you notice that your score dropped a little bit. When you go to look into that, you've got a couple credit inquiries. So that is more of a hard credit pull. So that is actually hitting your credit. A soft credit pull, it's not as in-depth for the vendor, in this case, Backyard. So what they're going to do is essentially look at it and say, okay, is this person making their payments? Does this person have repossessions? Have they filed bankruptcy? It's not as in-depth as a hard credit pull, but they're still getting that information they need to determine the risk factor for that customer. They want to know if that customer is one that they see making those payments, or if this is going to be one where they go through this entire loan process and within a month, they're having to pull out every stop they can to try to get those payments.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, after that application is approved, or after that application is sent in, there's two different paths here that they can do. They can do a do not qualify, or they can be approved. Now, this is something where dealers, and I've noticed this is one that, especially for our highly structured, who does have a certain way they operate when they sell this building, this is where, and we're bringing everything to you, the good, bad, and ugly that we're seeing. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to be very blunt and direct of everything that we're doing, because what we see and the roadblocks we hit, this is the only way to improve it, but this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a do not qualified, or we're seeing qualified, or we're seeing conditional approvals on different scenarios if they do have something, they kind of like the deal, and it does not qualify. On that, if they do qualify, we'll go down that road first, Logan. What happens if they do qualify? What goes from there?
So if they do qualify, that's when Backyard's going to reach out with that offer. They're going to let them know, hey, you applied for $15,000 as your loan amount. You'll see some customers that they get that $15,000. You'll also see some customers where Backyard comes back and says, we will approve you to $25,000, to $30,000, $40,000 even.
We've seen that on a lot of them.
Yep, and that does not mean that the customer has to change that order. But that is a great opportunity for you as the dealer to try to add in those other things that maybe they were interested in, but they didn't necessarily like the price of. Spray foam insulation, as an example, it's not a cheap add-on. Maybe they really wanted spray foam. They weren't a fan of the price. Well, hey, you're approved for more than just this building without spray foam. Let's go ahead and add it. You don't want to have that regret down the road. I wish I would have added it. I wish I had spray foam in this building.
I've also seen this be very well used for smart space as well, where they're going in, because Backyard does have some terms we hadn't talked about that will fit that mold. Logan, do you know what all those are offhand?
You might have them offhand.
So I got you. No, it's fine. So Backyard will do up to 20-year term financing.
Yes.
They will go up to $100,000. That's right. You heard me. $100,000. There's been other ones that have done not 25 to 30 to 40 to 50 I've seen, but $100,000. They also fall in a range from 10.99 on interest to 17.99 on interest. So those are great terms that they have there that you'll have somewhat of an ability to know what it is. Where I was talking about that structured dealers, we're used to pitching the price all the time about, hey, this is your price, this is how we close the deal. Well, with Backyard, it's going to be a little different because after they fill out their application, they're going to get a phone call from a Backyard rep that is going to pitch them the terms and their basically their rate, their payment, and the terms on that building. And that's where that dealers are not used to not talking about how much it is. You're going to get a lot of questions from customers saying, hey, what are you seeing with people are getting on 700? We do not want to pitch a rate or a payment to them because we could be wrong. We don't know their credit history until that finance company gets in there and looks at their credit profile. What we can do is say, hey, we can go ahead and get you signed up. It's a free credit pull. We can find out for sure what it is so there wouldn't be any guessing on there. Or what we've seen also as well is pull up like a interest loan calculator that you can input data in. And what we've done here is put it at 17.99, which is the highest, and show them what they're looking at for their monthly payment. And we can kind of dictate terms and stuff like that to give them an idea to get them ready to go for it. Now, after they get that call, you did mention a couple different fees here. We'll go into that. You mentioned an origination fee. What is an origination fee when it comes to terms on Backyard?
So the origination fee is essentially, in easier terms, we'll call that Backyard's part. So Backyard, for them to facilitate this loan, for them to find a vendor or a loaner in this case to give that loan to that customer, there is an origination fee. That fee does fall between 3% and 6%. What that percentage is more so based off of is the risk of that customer. So if you have a customer come in with a fantastic credit score, they've never had a late payment, more than likely they're going to be at the very bottom of that range. Now, on the other end, if we have a customer come in, maybe their credit isn't the best, they've had a couple missed payments, a couple bankruptcy, whatever it might be, they're probably going to fall towards the top of that range. One way of looking at that is, of course, hey, 6%, that's an added fee to that, or that's part of it, but that's still better than nothing. That customer is still able to get a loan on that building. With rent-to-own, we know that it's a $25,000 max. Just like John had said, we're at a $100,000 max. So that opens up a lot of doors that we didn't necessarily have beforehand if that customer wanted to go with a monthly payment purchase.
That origination fee, to look at it as well for the dealer standpoint, that is basically going to be the down payment that the customer is going to be paying to Backyard to use their services. So they will not have to put any money down when they use financing because it is paid for there. Now, they can still put cash down on their payment if they're like, hey, I want to finance $25,000, but I've got $5,000 to put down, so I'm only going to finance 20. Now, that origination fee is not going to go towards any principal of that building. This is where we've always talked about rent to own is rental fees. This is actually where we can talk about interest and principal on there. So once that happens, if they accept those terms, after they've had that soft credit pull and they want to do the deal is the only time they pay that origination fee. They don't have to pay it to look at numbers and think about it. That approval is good up to 30 days as well till they have to pay that origination fee. Anything you want to add on that?
No, other than kind of what we had spoken about the other day. So when that customer does do this financing application, that is not necessarily specific, but that is for a Stor-Mor portable building or for your dealership.
Yes.
So that's not something to where, hey, let me go to the competitor down the road and tell them Backyard Finance gave me $25,000. Let's do this deal. That's going to be specific to you. So if they were to go down the road, they're going to have to go through this process again.
Yeah. So anybody they put through your system, put through that link and that approved, they can only buy from you. They can't buy from anybody else.
They are approved for that from you.
Now, after that, they got an approval. Now, let's get this building order. Logan did say something the dealer will know or the customer will know within the 5 to 10 minutes of that approval. They'll know how much they're approved for and how much if it's asking or if they can go up. This is where the dealers, hey, you can upsell. One thing we have not mentioned yet, though, this can go for an off-lot, repo, and a new build, so you can still sell all the three, but what we've seen majority on is most of them new build. They're going to finance to take out the money that they want. They're going to get the building they exactly want. So that's where this has been super handy. Now, as the dealer, what you will do is, as Logan, we talked about earlier, we're just going to get into there. You're going to go into your shed suite. You're going to go ahead and start building that order. Logan, you mentioned a dock fee earlier, and I know we've hit you with 2 fees in 2.5 minutes, but this is the nature of what we're doing and what we're dealing with. You want to go a little bit about what that is? If not, I can. It doesn't matter to me, but if you want to take it, go for it.
Yep. So a documentation fee is more so. So when you go buy a loan, you've got a doc fee, or I'm sorry, when you go buy a vehicle, you've got a doc fee, you've got service fees. There's all these other fees that get added in. You always look at the bottom line and you say, well, this is a $15,000 car and I'm paying $20,000. That's where those fees come in. So it is no different than any other traditional loan. There's going to be a documentation fee, just like there's an origination fee. Now, that documentation fee, we are getting it set up in Shed Suite to where you're going to be able to hit in your drop-down list of add-ons, and you can click that doc fee. So you're not going to have to go in and essentially do a custom add-on every single time.
Right.
We're going to have it set up to where you just click that doc fee, and you're able to move right on through it.
That's going to be for the back end for any transactional cost it is to actually get Stor-Mor funded and get everything. Yep. You won't have to deal with it. People who've used Backyard before and had it set up before we partnered with them, they would fund the dealer, then the dealer would pay Stor-Mor. This is on the back end of where it all is going to go through us. And I did have a comment in here from someone that I was being confusing about this, and I wanted to make sure that I could find that comment. And I want to clear up for any confusion on there. That's what we're for. We know this is going to take a little bit of time, so right here. All right, Backyard told me the customer. So what we're looking at right there, that is going to be the conditional approval of what it is. So Backyard can say that, hey, they are approved, but they won't be approved for the full money amount that they're approved for. So depending on what that is how we look at that. So I can talk with you a little bit more about that to be one-on-one with you and explain that process with you there, so I don't want to confuse everyone else right there. It wasn't me that denied the deal. It's a conditional approval that we go through on certain deals that may not be, their credit isn't the best. Backyard can squeeze every drip of juice out of it, but their credit profile doesn't support the amount that they're wanting for, basically, is what that means. All right. Sorry about that. Nope, I just want to make sure everything is we're transparent and open about everything because, like I said, this is something new. When you do something new, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through, and there's also a lot of learning curves that's there. So, like I said, it's still new. We've been doing it, maybe 2 or 3 months. So we're still learning as we go, and we're going to update you with the best possible advice that we get from them. All right, so we went over that doc fee. So the doc fee will be added to every finance customer that comes in on there. That's something that we have to have on there. Once that is in there, then we're going to start right there and build the building out. This is where you'll know exactly what that customer can go up to. Once that customer goes up to it, you have your building built out. Now, just like standard, when you select the finance in Shed Suite, what you're going to do, it's going to look a little different, but not really. Logan, you want to elaborate what Shed Suite kind of looks like?
Yes. So in Shed Suite, when you're doing a financing deal, the amount due today is going to be listed out at $0. Now, we do know just from going over this origination fee, this documentation fee, there is fees associated with finance. Once this documentation fee, we've got it set up today, how you will be moving forward with it, that amount due today is going to change. It's not going to be $0. It's going to be the $500 documentation fee. So that is one thing to watch. With financing, unfortunately, it's not going to be one of those, you get the building, you place your order, and then your first month's payment's due down the road. There is going to be fees associated at the very front end of this loan. And the way you kind of have to look at that is, hey, Backyard is taking a risk here. They're loaning out money to somebody that they've basically checked a couple boxes. They've checked those boxes and said, okay, we'll take the risk. We'll take the risk on this. We'll loan the money. Unfortunately, in today's world, that's not going to be free. There's going to have to be money or funds associated with that, and that's where your origination fee and your documentation fee come into play. That's that money.
To clarify what he just said on there, origination fee would be paid to Backyard, where
Yes.
that $500 doc fee is going to be rolled into the invoice. The customer doesn't have to come out with any money other than that origination fee. Now, if they want to put extra down, they can, but that $500 is going to be rolled into that contract to where they don't have to put an extra $500 down.
Yep.
The financing tab lets us in Shed Suite move through the order with $0 down, to where if you select cash, you got to have at least 50% for you to submit it. With rent to own, you have to have that first month's payment, or anything if it's over that, you have to have money up front on there. This has been huge when it comes to, say, your build on site or your bigger buildings that go over that rent to own cap, and they have to put a significant down for a 60-month or a 72-month contract. This means that customer, and this is one way you can spend it, you will pay a little extra for the building, $500 extra, but you'll be able to keep all that cash money you have in your pocket down that day. So customers are really like that. When you can get something for basically free other than that origination fee, they really like that. Now, getting that order process, Logan, what does that look like, and does that look any different?
So in terms of processing, it will look different for our processing department. With rent to own or with cash, they're pulling essentially a substantial payment to get that order processed. With financing, one thing that they need right off the bat is going to be that screenshot of page 1 of their Dropbox documents. And that's going to be their approval. So that's going to have their loan amount, interest rate, term length, all of that information is going to be right there. So it's a good step to go ahead and have that screenshot, and that way, as soon as you place that order, you add that file, you've got your driver's license like normal and everything else, but you're adding that page 1 of that approval packet in the Dropbox link.
So if they do sign, what we've seen, customers have signed that Dropbox packet beforehand, before we be able to get it screenshot. If they do, it's fine. Don't fret. We can go back to Backyard and have them send our approvals to us that we can upload in that order. But it's just been easier and more streamlined if that approval is screenshotted, that very first page of that Dropbox, before they go ahead and sign everything. The dealer has it. We'll know what they can build their building or sell their building up to. It just makes everything a lot more streamlined and gets us quicker processing. I think we got a customer on there. So the customer knows their score. What's the minimum score that they might be set as minimum? So Backyard touts they do from 550 up. We know that 550 is a lower credit score, but what Backyard also takes in consideration is their debt to income, like any other. So basically, if they have a bunch of debts and their income's exceeded, they may not get approved because of that lower credit score plus that debt to income. Now, if they have a lower score and a low debt to income, they're going to get more. They're going to get more ability to be. More ability to be approved with a higher amount or the amount they're asking for, since they do have that. So it's kind of a two-factor authentication that they're looking at on their credit scores. Make sure we're getting these. So as they have a fee from Backyard and a fee from Stor-Mor every time. So yeah, the Backyard fee is an origination fee on there. So that's going to be with every deal. And then the doc fee on the back end is. So yes, that is correct on there. Yes, that is correct. So if a customer buys a 10K building, they're paying additional 10. It's the cost of the building fees. Not necessarily a 10% of that. Like Logan was saying, that 3 to 6% origination fee is going to be either one. It's going to be, historically it's landed about 4, but 3 to 6% for an origination fee is their down payment for using that services. The doc fee on the back end is transactional fees that they are putting on us to get that building funded. But it's not always going to be a 10% fee. $500 on a 10K building or $500 on a 25K building. So if you look at rent to own payments, and this is what we're talking about, if you look at rent to own payment, if they're going to put $25,000 building, they're going to have $1,500 to $1,600 down, where $500 is going to be the only thing they have to put plus pay their origination fee.
And if a customer ever does have questions about that, you can always go the route of showing them rent to own. Okay, just like John said, we've got a $25,000 building. With finance, we've got that 3 to 6% origination fee and a $500 documentation fee. Rent to own, since that building is over that $15,000 security deposit amount. They're going to have their first month's payment, security deposit, and then if that building is over $25,000, they've also got an additional down payment. So in the case of these larger buildings or higher price point buildings, there's going to be funds funds needed to get that sale done. So it's kind of one way or the other there. With rent to own, it may come out to more. With financing, it might come out to more. But one good thing about financing that you can always pitch to your dealers is that interest rate is right here, and that's where it stays.
And yes, that $500 doc fee rolls into the loan, so the customer doesn't have to pay a fee on the day of the order. That is absolutely correct. That makes it makes it on there to make it a little bit easier for we're going to be upfront and honest about the fee. We're not going to hide the fee. Hey, any type of thing you have to do, you have to put money down. If you buy cash, everybody says cash is king, but you still have to put 50% down on the day of that order, and then 50% down on delivery. Rent to own, you're going to have your down payment if you don't have any additional when you get to a certain price. We float that all the time with the $15,000 buildings where it goes under. You see a significant drop in that down payment there. We've seen that on there. This is going to allow us to get bigger buildings done cheaper, and especially if they are over 25,000. We've seen really good success with build on sites if you are able to do that, where you know what that fee is there. Typically it's 25%. And you have to, especially if you do rent to own, you have to come up with that 25%. Not everybody can do that day of, and that kills the deal right there. With backyard, hey, you've got an origination fee, and we got to charge you $500 as well for a dock fee. No way to get out of that. That's just going to be the world that we live in.
And we've seen how it works. In today's world, the housing economy is high. We can have a big sign out front that says we do not build tiny homes, but we can be honest with ourselves too and know that a lot of these customers coming in, if they're buying a 14 by 30 all the way up to a 16 by 60, a lot of times those customers are going to turn that building into a tiny home. We can give them the warnings all we want. They're still looking at it as, hey, this is a cheaper route than going and buying a $300,000 home. With financing, it's going to make that offer to that customer a lot more enticing. They're going to have that path to ownership that they're looking for. If they're okay with that debt being associated with their debt to income, they're okay with that soft credit pull, typically they're going to get out a little bit better on those higher priced buildings.
My customer paid a $600 fee in the order to have her order processed, and she was putting $6K down on it. I would have to look to see what that one is on there. If you can give me that customer's name on there, we'll get that and look at it. Like I said, we do have some people that have done this. We have had to fluctuate very different times, everything on there. So if it is some of the customers that come through on here, it may be a little bit different of what we're rolling out from everyone just to find a baseline of what we were looking for. So like I said, this is new. This is something we're all learning at. This is something that we're all learning as the day goes on. That's why it takes so long for us to go ahead and get everything rolled out like we are. But everything is subject to change on what we're looking at. But this is the baseline that we're going with right here. Yes. Yes. Text went. Yes, people. Yep. Brandy, I see in there comment. Yep, it is going to be available to you as well. Some people I know in the past, and we talked to actually one of the manufacturers on here. They used a company. I can't exactly remember what it was, but we had a customer that they could only get 50,000. They wanted 100. They wanted 100 is what so they went through backyard, signed up for backyard. They ended up getting, husband got 100 or wife got 100 and husband got right around 80 or something right there. They ended up buying the 4 buildings at 165 because no one else could get them approved at what backyard was to get them approved at. So with it being new, with it being something, and we're thinking about the 95% of the negative things when we hear the word fee and stuff, how we're going to teach this to the customer. I promise you the customers that you are talking to that are going to be able to do this financing will understand. Now, will they question you? Yes. That's why we want to bring this information to you up front and honest and be very open with you of what we're looking at, because it is easier for you to explain something if you're educated and understand it as well. So we know there's going to be a ton of questions. We know there's going to be a ton of different off scenarios that are going to be different in a little rent to own. Financing is based on the customer, not like a blanket how we can do with rent to own and stuff like that. Not every customer is going to be a customer for financing. and every dealer's not going to want to offer financing. We understand that. That's great. If you don't, and if you want to learn, we can take the time to do it. But if it's something you don't feel 100% sure that you can teach your customer just yet, that's fine. We can take the time to get you trained and get you where you feel comfortable of offering this option, and we can go from there. All right. We're going to try to get to all these comments in here to look. Are you seeing increased sales knowing that financing is available? Perfect question, Lon. What we are seeing, as Logan touted earlier, customers are asking for a certain amount and being approved for more. That's when we had one. We was talking with some reps yesterday. We had one that I think they ended up coming in asking for 12 and got 27 and bought a $25,000 building. So yes, as of right now, it is increasing gross sales number. But what we want to do and what we want to start doing is targeting that customer who does have the ability to finance, that didn't know you could finance a building, and bring them in and bring a new revenue stream of customers in there. So you'll have your cash, your traditional rent to own, and then we want to add this traditional financing customer in there. With it being new, I know that it's going to take a while to get the information out there that we offer it, but long term we are looking into increased sales numbers, yes. We increased in the sales due to financing. We sold a 16 building that wouldn't have sold about. Perfect. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Will their payment history of backyard show in their credit history? Yes. So anytime that's going to be a traditional finance. So if they do make their payments on time and pay their payments in full, yes, it will help their credit score or show up as a positive on their credit. Does this change the repo process? Can you elaborate that on a little bit, if you don't mind?
And yes, Brandy, that minimum credit score is a 550 score. We don't have to this day an exact debt to income percentage that they like to be. They do look at it. They will factor that into that risk for that customer. But one of the main ones is a 550 or above credit score.
Sorry, we're getting text messages and comments. We're trying to make sure we answer them all. It's something new, so we knew going into this there's going to be a ton of questions, a ton of good stories, bad stories, mid stories. So we want to make sure we also bring up everything. So yeah, so on Backyard bringing up approvals and stuff, Backyard will have a rep to reach out to your customers if they are approved or if they aren't approved, so your customer will know regardless. Some, like we talked about, was the conditional approval. That will go into a little bit more. That may take longer for your customer. We've had a dealer, and I'll bring this up because this happens, that they filled it out. They waited there 10, 15 minutes. They didn't get a phone call. The customer did get upset, but the customer had some stuff on his credit history that Backyard was, they were on the fence of saying that this customer is right for us, but we didn't know if we wanted it. So we had to have a conversation with Backyard, and that's what takes so long, a conversation to make sure it's right for Backyard and make sure it's right for Stor-Mor, because we don't want to do bad deals that dealers are not going to make anything on. Stor-Mor's not going to make anything on. There's no reason. That's not a good business model when you look at it that way. So we want to be profitable for the dealer and for the company as well. Do you mind elaborating on your question? Origination fee also wrote into the loan up to 20 years, but what are all term links that are offered in years? So no, the origination fee isn't rolled into the loan. The doc fee will be rolled into the loan. The origination fee is what's paid at time of accepting the money from Backyard Finance. So essentially it is going to be the customer's down payments to do financing. Now, all term links are offered. So yeah, we've seen a gambit of term links. We've seen some as low as 3 years. I've seen one the other day that was 144 months, which is 12 years. And I've seen some going to that 100,000 range that are going to be on that 20-year term.
Does the dealer
No,
have any role?
so there's no recourse to the customer if they default. That's what, to the dealer. That's one thing that's great about this financing. Backyard is looking at their profile and wanting to know if they're going to lend money to that person or not. That's why it's a little bit different from rent to own, because not everyone is pre-approved on the spot. It will say must have qualifying credits on there, so that's where that conditional approval comes into play as well. Thank you, Mike. Customer apply for financing and not move forward with results. Do we have any way to see it at least got approved? And so we can see. So, and Logan, you can talk about spreadsheet. I'm not trying to take over. Go ahead.
No, so Backyard will send us a spreadsheet, typically twice a day, sometimes more, depending on the amount of applications done. And on that spreadsheet, it's going to say that we presented options. The customer declined, the customer approved. So if you do have any questions about specific customers, feel free to call us up here. We would be more than happy to show you essentially what we've got. We want to be open about this, and we want to tell you, hey, the customer didn't like the offer, they didn't like the interest rate, they didn't like the amount, whatever the case may be. So yes, if you do have any questions or you're just curious in general of why that customer didn't take that loan, call us up here. We would be glad to walk you through it and tell you exactly what we know as well.
Yeah, we're not going to know their credit score, their rates, or anything like that. We're not going to know that. They're not going to show us. They're going to show us if they're approved, what they asked for, how much they got approved for, or did they get approved. Anything else that is their credit profile is going to stick with Backyard. That's just kind of the nature of that business right there. We're not going to have access to that type of information, nor do I really want to feel comfortable with being able to access that for dealers. Be like, well, he had this credit score. We don't want to dig in a person's life like that. They're a secure company. We're a secure company. That stays with them.
Yep. They're going to give us what we need to know on our end. They're not going to give us credit scores, debt to incomes. They're going to tell us the amount they offered or the amount that wasn't offered, and whether or not that customer approved those amounts or approved that interest rate or whatever it might be.
Can the customer choose their term length? Do they have options? Yes. When Backyard does call them, that Backyard rep calls them, he will call them with 2 to 3 different options of what they've liked. That's where if you know any kind of credit things, that's where that debt to income really comes to play. If you can spread that debt out over a longer term for a cheaper price, they are going to be able to do that for you there. If not, they may give you a shorter term length and you do have a little higher payment. And one thing, like I talked about earlier, go ahead and pull up, and I'll find the link to the one I use, and we're doing a closing call. It's going to be over financing as well, but we'll show you there on looking able to calculate payments to see what the difference would be for your customer if they're still interested in rent to own, and what the long-term impacts are. That we're seeing a lot, especially I know we tout these higher ones, but not everyone that's doing these loans have been 20, 25, 30,000. If you don't sell larger buildings, we've seen them all the way from 3,000 to 7,500 to 8 to 10 to 12 to 14. So it's been across the board, and it's turned out really well. Will Backyard provide signage, marketing information we can use for ads in social media? So Backyard will kind of provide some. We are going to be providing a lot of it. They're going to be branded with Backyard, but Stor-Mor will have a large part of what we can do with the marketing on there. How early payoffs? Customer only pay principal owed at time of payoff. So no. So when you can do an early payoff, we haven't looked into there to see how that early payoff works. That's a great question, Drake. I'm going to look into that a little bit more and get some more answers for you on that one. All right. So back to the processes there. Sorry, I couldn't answer one comment, not answer anybody else's. I didn't want to look like I was ignoring anybody. That's a good question that I am going to find the answer out to that one. We were talking about getting the order in Shed Suite and getting it processed. So the only other additional file, if I was correct, that we need from the dealer is going to be that conditional approval. Okay, so scenario, Logan, we've seen this already play out. Say their conditional approval is showing that they approve for $10,000 is what they asked for, and they put a $14,000 building in there, and we see a sales processing say, hey, we see their approvals for 10. What happens? What does a dealer need to do from there? Who do they need to call about that?
So from there, you can always call up here to us with the spreadsheet that Backyard sends us. It's going to say that customer asked for that customer asked for $10,000. We've approved them to $20,000. So if that customer does want to go ahead and follow through on a $14,000 building, let's go ahead and get it in. Call us up here while you're doing so. We'll make sure to give you that reassurance of, hey, yes, they only applied for that, but Backyard is willing to loan them more than what this order is. So just because they asked for $10,000, it ends up going to 12 after they're approved. Don't fret. Give us a call. We'll give you that reassurance to let you know you're good to go.
Yep. Sales processing is going to be doing with the knowledge that they've seen on there. And then we're wanting to reach out to Logan to see on that spreadsheet, hey, Backyard told them they were approved for 14. We did it for 12. Don't fret. It's perfectly fine. We'll get in there and put in the notes that, hey, yes, Backyard approved up to this, because we have seen that a little bit too. Now, once that's done, once that order is processed, there will be – we will take it from here. I know that's you don't have to worry about the customer. They may call you back and ask for their payments. Their payments do start 30 days after delivery of the building. But sometimes some of the reps, they're not sure, and this is something we're working with for Backyard, if they're working with the individual dealer or if they're working with the whole Stor-Mor network. If it is through the Stor-Mor network, Stor-Mor is funded, and then Stor-Mor has once the building's delivered, the customer will have to sign what's called a COC. It is a certificate of completion that the job was done, that they got financed for. Backyard will send the customer an email, and they will digitally sign that email to make sure their building is delivered. Once that happens, that's when everything on that customer side starts with the 30 days for payments from there. So once that order is processed and everything, if your customer has any questions, they're great to ask you to ask us. But the only other part, they're just waiting for that building to be delivered and sign that COC. Perfect. Yes, that's right. The doc fee is rolled into the loan. Perfect. And like I said, I know there's a lot of information coming very, very quickly at us right now. We're going to be doing, like I said, the closing calls. That's going to be over financing, so it gives you a couple of weeks to actually get in and dive in and come up with some more questions. We're going to be doing some training on how to basically ask questions to see if your customer is ready for financing or if they need to stick to more traditional rent-to-own or cash purchases of that matter. So it is a new sales tactic to talk to customers who's ready for financing if you've never done it before. How does the repo process work? The customer keep the building account, goes to collection, or does the dealer get the bill? It's a great question. Oh, there's two questions in there.
Got another one. I was told the customer was approved for more than they applied for, but there was a 9% risk fee.
On that risk fee, that's a metric that they use to see what the default rate's going to be on there and what it looks like. Risk fees are going to be something that accounting does really talk about too when it comes to funding on the back side of that building. So I'm not 100% sure. I can find out what we're talking about when it comes to the risk fee, but that's going to be more on the accounting side of that aspect. How does the repo process work? Does the customer keep the building account? So no, the account would go in collections trail. So if they default on their loan, since it is an unsecured loan, it's going to be like a credit card loan. It will go against them for their credit. For the loan, can you take a step-by-step? Can you make a step-by-step process sheet?
Yep. We are in the process of getting that worked out and getting that sent out to you dealers just so you have a step-by-step process. And then also, too, if you've got your first finance sale and maybe you're like me, you just want to make sure you do it right, call me. Call us up here. We would be more than happy to help you walk through your first finance deal, your second, third, fourth, whichever it is. We would be more than happy to walk through it with you just to make sure that you've got everything you need right there. And also, too, we're not having to redo it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to help. And I don't like saying hand-holding like we're going to show you how, but we are going to help you with this as much as possible because it's new. We know it takes a lot of time, especially when it's something you've never done before, and you want to be able to bring great customer service. That's where we're at. We don't want to lose any customer service because it can be a little confusing at times getting it started. It's like anything. Most of y'all, if y'all remember your first new build or the first floor plan you drew or even the first off-lot order you sold that you might have forgot to apply a discount with. It can be nerve-wracking. You have adrenaline pumping. We get it. We understand. We've been there. So that's why we're here to help. That's why we've had a little bit longer rollout period, so we can find out where our pain points and pitch points are going to be. If I told you it's 100% perfect as it is, no. But on the scale that we're doing it now, this is the easiest path that we saw that we were ready for to open this up to everyone. All right, H&M structures, the repo process. I did answer that earlier, but I'll answer it again. The repo does not come back to the lot. It will go into collections. Does the request amount to something lower increase their ability to get approved? Are you saying after they've already submitted in, or are you saying if they're denied to try a cheaper building on that one? But I don't know if Backyard, when they do it, they run a different scenarios of what they're looking at. So they try to get the approval as much as possible. So they will basically do a longer term on a smaller scale building to spread that debt to income. Or if their credits are lower, they may offer them something that's only like 25% of what they ask for. That's where that conditional approval will come into. How do we do an invoice, or do we contact the customer as well? We would do the order like we would regular. We will send the invoice here from corporate. We will send it to Backyard on there. So all you have to do is make sure that invoice and that floor plan or everything match like it's going to get sales processed. Once it's processed, we do the legwork of getting that invoice to Backyard and making sure it's what they need. Go ahead.
How does the documentation in Shed Suite work? Invoice, contract, etc. So just like when you go into Shed Suite and you click rent to own, you click your rent to own term, it adds those two other steps, and that's your customer information, all that good stuff. When you click finance, it's going to have all those different things in there. The only additional that you would need to do is that very first step of that Dropbox link, or that very first page of the Dropbox link, which has their loan term, interest rates, things like that. You'll want to add that as an additional file after you place that order. Everything else inside of Shed Suite is going to be set up for you to essentially plug and play right through.
Yeah, everything will be the same and look the same, except you won't have a rent-to-own contract to sign. Backyard will have their own paperwork that they sign in that Dropbox file that we talked about earlier. The only big difference when you click Finance and you select Backyard that you're going to see is on screen 3, but screen 3, where it is the amount due today that you can leave that 0 if they do not want to put any extra down on their building. That's honestly what we're hoping for, is like, and Bob even said it, the days of the good old first. Yeah. Anything you do the first time is going to be a little difficult, a little nerve wracking. We know it. We've racked our brains and had to do it, especially when you're dealing with financing stuff like that. Not all, as I said earlier, not all deals are going to be the same based on each customer. So one customer may have something right here. One goes easy as pie. I will say, from what I've noticed, using this, if your first customer is easy, you're all for it. If it is a little difficult, a little confusing, you kind of shy off it a little bit. I know it's something I don't understand. I'm not going to use it as much neither. Same kind of concept we were talking about, new builds versus off-lot on the percentage of sold. Some people are still kind of worried, and new builds are a little bit harder and more time consuming than it is. But this is a customer that this is an answer to a customer we have been missing for years, and having this and being able to do this is a new customer revenue where you will see shed sales grow. Yes, so the fuel surcharge will stay the same if the denied is what I was trying to say. Now, Jeremy, so what we've seen, if they've denied them, they will try to run it through a series of gambits of approvals that they're looking for on their loan terms, whether it might be stretch out that loan term, or if they offer them less money, what that approval looks like. And that's what we're talking about on that conditional approval. If somebody say, hey, they wanted 10 and they're only going to give them $1,000 at 10-year rate or something like that, then no, that deal, we're not going to insult that customer and be like, no, this is what we'll give them. We'll just say they're denied. And that's kind of what we were talking about on that conditional approval, because the last thing we want to do is make a customer mad about their credit score not being that great, even though they said their credit karma is whatever. When they actually go in there to do that approval, they may have some collections or something on there that Backyard does not like, and that's the convo they're having with us.
Yep. And yes, that fuel surcharge will still automatically be added into your orders, whether it's finance, cash, or rent out.
Well, on the gap insurance there, it's not going to be an auto, so the building's not going to necessarily appreciate. Liability waiver, I'm not for sure on what we're looking at. If you can elaborate on that, I'd be able to answer that question a little bit more. All right, process. Once that's done, Logan, do you have anything else in the way we want to process it, the way that's added?
Other than getting that additional file and adding it to the order, just showing what that customer's approved for. And again, like John said, when they get through and sign that, it's essentially gone. So if they don't get that, don't look at that as you just lost the sale. We can still track that down. It just makes the process of processing easier if that's already added.
Yeah. We deal with Backyard directly. We have a rep up here that we deal with, and I've talked to him. Logan's talked to him very well. He is the biggest problems we've run into, honestly, is that 10 to 15 minute approval. Yep. And if it's on the weekend, and I know if it's on the weekend and you're running finance customers, call Logan or me. We can get a hold of that rep over at Backyard to see, even if it's after working hours, to see if they're approved. If you have to wrap that building up that day, we know sales never sleep. We see them come in, orders come in on Saturdays and Sundays, so we will be available for assistance on being able to see what that approval is. If a dealer, not saying do every one of them, but they are on East Coast. I think they're stationed out of Florida, so people over in the Utah and Texas and stuff like that. Well, I know Texas is probably mountain, but we know we're all in different time zones, so it may be looking at it where that institution's closed. We can make that phone call to get that approval for you. Do you select cash payments type? Yes, that is correct, Curtis. You would select cash as that payment type unless they want to put more money down and say, like I said earlier, they're wanting to do a $15,000 and they're going to put $5,000 down on that building plus what they have to pay Backyard, and they want to pull it from a card. That's where you'd select a card. Yeah, so like I was saying, just said Mike, I don't know if you heard it. You can do the approvals if you're doing one at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, it's going to be the next day before we get that approval on there. But if it's still like, if it's 3 o'clock your time and it might be 5 o'clock their time, call up here, Logan, and I'll answer two questions. One, Logan's going to get his own line that we can get to on people that are for after hours to a certain extent to where we know they're still working, and or a direct link prompt for him. Also, I just got a message on there. If anyone is wondering, that the commission, that doc fee that will be added, it will be paid commission on that is rolled into that fee. So it is going to go in the invoice. It is going to go towards that commission tier as well. Most of Texas is CST. Perfect. So it would only be an hour. So if it's 4 your time, 5 their time, that's what we run into. Saturdays and Sundays too. Yes, it might take a little bit longer to get back from somebody on a Saturday or Sunday just because of what they're doing. But yes, we will be available to be able to help find out that approvals. So, like I said, we want to be able to helpful as possible. We know in the world that we live in, sales never sleep. That's why that is going to be an option. Like I said, we know there's going to be a ton more questions. We'll answer as many as we can on here. I think we've hit that hour mark that we like to stick the panels to, but we are going to be available all day with the dealer support. We're going to be available for email. I've already been told that there's some dealers. Go ahead and email on the dealer support link. That we'll tout that again if you didn't hear us earlier. If you want that link for Backyard link, go ahead and email dealer support and we'll send that link out.
You can also check the chat. We just had that dropped in there. So we've got that financing link available to you in the chat.
So is there an LDW with the Backyard like for RTO? I have not seen an LDW that they carry with Backyard, but most people are homeowners and can put their building on their homeowner's policy. But yeah, so when they do an RTO, the liability is added in the Backyard will have a liability. No, backyard doesn't have anything that's basically an LDW. They haven't discussed it with us on there. That LDW is tied to rent to own with Heartland. That's something Heartland offers for all their contracts. I can ask Backyard or have Logan ask, and we can get back with you on there about that. But like I was saying, most people who are doing these traditional finance own their home and can put their building on their insurance for their house insurance, and that'll cover any damages to it.
Yep. And we can also, whenever we get this more so kind of cheat sheet sent out to you over the processes of finance, we'll have an answer to that in there. And that way you've got a for sure definite answer of whether or not they offer it or if they need to go the route of their homeowner's insurance.
But yeah, I mean, is the shed insured? Cheaper getting the shed insured? Yes, that's what we've seen in the past. Is people usually like their rate on their home insurance more than anything. It also adds an asset, believe it or not. Yep. It'll add an asset to that home's location. Will help show appreciation to that property, and that's kind of the people you get into when you start talking about financing and stuff like that. It's kind of a pitch point. Again, I want to tell the biggest thing is, what we're seeing right now is financing is being used when the sale's already made. Basically, the customer wants to buy the shed. Hey, let's try you in financing versus rent to own. What we want to get to a spot to do when we pitch financing is we want to be able to bring a customer who is looking in for financing and not using it in. And yes, someone did ask earlier about the links. About the links you can use for your ad. You can use this link in your ad. Will they still get a call from Backyard on weekends, or do they still need to chat with somebody? That's what we were saying. Within their working hours, if it's past 5 o'clock on their side, I don't know if they'll get a call directly from Backyard that day, but I can call the Backyard rep, kind of say, hey, they're waiting for an approval right now. Can you get on the phone or at least tell me if they're approved? Then that conversation will occur, and they will call them. So, Texas Strong, where do we find your number? We're working on some things to get some prompts up and open for the weekend, or maybe just like a financing phone that we're going to try to get. So we're going to have abilities to do that. We don't know what route we're going with, but we are working on that actively because, like we said earlier, we know sales do not sleep. All right. Well, if there's not anything else, and like I said, you can call us on the dealer support line. We went through the content we wanted to have. We knew there were going to be a ton of questions today. There's going to be a ton of questions for the next 6, 8 weeks, 9 months. There's always going to be a lot of questions on this, but we're going to provide you with the best support we know how and to make this as smooth as possible. So if you have anything for us here in the future, just let us know or give us a ring up to dealer support office and ask for Logan. But if y'all need anything, I do appreciate y'all joining everything on here, and I do have some notes that I do want to mention for the closing here. Let me get them pulled up in my notes.
Little Red Barn Store, yes, you can start offering that now. The link to financing is in the chat here, but if you don't see it, just shoot us an email at the dealer support email, and we'll get that sent over to you.
So I will bring this up. We noticed a couple weeks ago that Shed Suite kicked us all out, and we all had to come in and do an email and do two-party factor authentication, which is not a fun thing to do when, stuff they had. Shed Suite had some stuff happen to them to where they switched to this. If you have not done your passkey yet, let us know. We'll try to help set you up a passkey. Shed Suite has been helping in giving people recovery codes. They've kind of said, hey, we've got adequate time to not give out recovery codes now. They need to set up their two-party or passkey or authenticator app. So just be mindful for that. If Shed Suite's going to tell you to get with admin and you're trying to been putting in recovery codes all week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take you through and set you up, try to get you set up a passcode. When they send those recovery codes, there's a video of that passcode in there and how they do it that way. But if you get confused about anything, let us know. And then also there will be a dealer survey going out this afternoon. It's completely anonymous. It's going to be asking some various questions about things that we do here at corporate to try to help y'all answer open honestly. Like I said, they are not completely anonymous, so we want your crucial feedback. It's only going to help us get better. So be looking for those to hit your inbox as well. All right. Other than that, I think that's everything we've got today. Hopefully we've got you excited about this. Like I said, this is a great thing to be able to do financing. It's just going to have, it's just, like I said, anything new, have time, patience, and we'll get through it and make it to where it's easy as pie, easy as silk. What's that? Smooth as silk. That's
Smooth
where
as
we
silk.
go. That's where we go. So, all right. Well, if y'all have anything for us, just let us know. I guess this is going to be our sign off. Like I said, if you have any problems with the authenticators, let us know and be looking for that dealer survey. And I appreciate y'all's time today.
Yep. Thank y'all for tuning in.
All right.